I was 50 years old when I moved into the old house on Maple Street. After my husband, John, passed away, and my children left for their own lives in different cities, I decided to live alone. The house was big, creaky, and full of memories waiting to be discovered. I loved it despite its age. One evening, I was sitting in my living room, reading a book and sipping tea. The sun had just set, and the darkness was slowly creeping in. The wind outside made the trees rustle, adding to the eerie silence of the house. Suddenly, I heard a noise. It was a soft, strange sound, almost like a whisper. I looked up from my book, my heart pounding. "Who's there?" I asked, but there was no reply. I listened carefully, but the house was quiet again. I shrugged it off, thinking it was just the wind, and went back to my book. The next night, I heard the noise again. This time, it was louder and seemed to come from the kitchen. I felt a shiver run down my spine but decided to check it out. I walked to the kitchen and turned on the light. Everything looked normal. My cat, Whiskers, was sleeping peacefully in his bed. It must be the wind, I thought. I gave Whiskers a gentle pat and returned to the living room. But the noise didn't stop. Every night, I heard it. It was always a soft whisper, sometimes from the kitchen, sometimes from the hallway. I started to get curious. Maybe there's a logical explanation, I thought. I decided to investigate. One day, I went to the town library to find out more about my old house. I met Mrs. Jenkins, the librarian. Mrs. Jenkins was an elderly lady with white hair and glasses. She knew a lot about the town's history. "Hello, Mrs. Jenkins," I greeted her. "I need to find some information about my house. I've been hearing strange noises lately." Mrs. Jenkins smiled kindly. "Hello, Emma. Your house is very old. It was built over 100 years ago. Let's see what we can find." Mrs. Jenkins showed me some old books and newspapers. We discovered that a family named the Thompsons used to live in my house many years ago. The Thompsons had a daughter named Mary. Mary was a young woman who loved to paint. She had a small art studio in the attic. But one day, Mary fell very ill and died in the house. Since then, people said her ghost haunted the house. I felt a chill run down my spine. "A ghost?" I whispered. I thanked Mrs. Jenkins and went back home. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Mary Thompson. Is it really her ghost making those noises? I wondered. The next morning, I decided to explore the attic. I had never been there before because it was dusty and dark. I found a flashlight and went up the narrow stairs. The attic was full of old furniture and boxes. I coughed as I moved things around. Suddenly, I found a small door. I opened it and saw a tiny room. Inside the room, there was an old easel and some paintings. It was Mary's art studio. I felt a strange sensation, as if someone was watching me. I looked around and saw a beautiful painting of a young woman. This must be Mary, I thought. I felt sad for her. Maybe she is lonely, just like me, I whispered. That night, I heard the whisper again. This time, I was not scared. I spoke softly, "Mary, if you are here, I want to help you. Are you lonely?" There was no answer, but I felt a gentle breeze on my face. I took it as a sign that Mary was listening. I started to spend more time in the attic. I cleaned it and arranged the paintings. I even bought some new paints and brushes. I wanted to continue Mary's work. Every day, I talked to her. "I found your favorite colors," I would say. "Look, I finished one of your paintings." Weeks passed, and I felt happier. I didn't feel lonely anymore. I felt like I had a friend. One night, I heard the whisper again, but this time it was different. It was a soft, gentle voice. "Thank you," it said. I smiled. "You're welcome, Mary," I replied. I knew that Mary was at peace now. The strange noises stopped, but I still talked to Mary every day. I told her about my life and my children. I even showed Mary's paintings to my friends. "These are made by the ghost in my house," I would joke. My friends laughed, but they were also amazed by the beautiful paintings. My house didn't feel old and creaky anymore. It felt warm and full of life. I was not lonely because I had Mary's spirit with me. I realized that sometimes, friendship comes in the most unexpected ways. I was grateful for the ghost in my old house. I knew that Mary would always be with me, as a friend and a muse. And so, I lived happily, painting and talking to Mary. The old house became a place of beauty and joy, all because of a ghost who found a friend.